This video is a tutorial for creating the train smokestack. So I'm going to start with a new part file. So we're going to select standard.ipt, create. We also want to make sure that you have this pulled up from Canvas. So these are the dimensions that we're going to be using. Now, creating this part doesn't look as simple as it may here. We're gonna have to do a couple of new things that you haven't done before, and it'll turn out pretty cool. All right, so back to Inventor. First thing we want to do, as usual, is we're going to start a new sketch. We're just going to pick a plane. We're going to draw a sketch of a circle. Do not put it on any of the axes or the origin. We'll just draw a circle here. And this circle that we're drawing is actually this one here. So this bottom part. So that has a diameter of 0.5. So we need a circle with a diameter of 0.5. So let's dimension this to 0.5. Alright, so now we've got our circle. And we're going to finish sketch. I know it doesn't seem like a smokestack. The next circle we're going to draw is this one here. Now you'll notice the circle on this upper piece is 1.25, so it's considerably larger than this bottom piece, and there's a distance between them. A distance of 1.25 from this circle to this circle. So imagine taking a dime and a quarter and holding them an inch apart, and then creating a shape in between those two. Starts off small and then gradually gets larger. We also have to make sure that they're lined up, the circles are lined up concentric, meaning they have exactly the same center point. Otherwise, our quote-unquote cone shape would not be symmetric. It would be off-center. So we're going to make sure that the bottom circle that we just drew and this larger circle have the same center point, and we're going to make sure they are 1.25 inches apart. So that means we have to draw another circle. Instead of with this one, we're going to draw it over here. So in order to do that, we have to set up another sheet of paper, another plane to draw on. So we're going to choose the plane tool, and we're going to do offset plane. Now, it's going to say, what plane do you want to offset from? Well, we can choose sketch 1. That's fine. We can choose sketch 1. And then we can, but see, there's no plane to choose from. There's our problem. So what we have to do is we have to go over here to the origin folder. And the origin folder contains the 3 planes and the 3 axes of the original, or of this part. So if we hover the YZ plane, the XZ plane, and the XY plane, the XY plane is the one that we drew our first sketch on. So I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to right click on that and turn it on, just so we can get some visibility. So we're going to check the visibility here. So now this plane is visible. So we have our original sketch, and I've turned the plane on so that it's visible. Now we can go back and we can do an offset plane. And so it says, what's the distance away from this original plane that we want to offset? 1.25 is the distance. So now we have 2 planes. If we rotate them around, they are parallel to each other. One plane already has our sketch of 1/2 inch. The other plane, we're going to have another sketch of a circle, but it's going to have to be 1.25 inches. We also want to make sure they have the same center point. So what I need to do is I'm going to project geometry. So we need to project geometry. We can't do that in 3D model mode. We're going to have to start a new sketch here. So we're going to go to the new plane, right click on it, new sketch. And now we see the two planes. We're drawing on this top one. We can see through it, it's transparent. But if we project geometry, we'll go ahead and get that center point. And so what that does is that copies the center point from the back plane onto the front plane. So it's kind of like tracing. If you ever took a coloring book page or a comic book and you traced an outline to make it your own, that's what we've just done. We've traced the center point from one piece of paper, one sketch plane, to another. Now we can draw a circle using that center point. So go to circle. So when I'm gonna rotate it so that you can see. I'm grabbing the green dot right here. That means I'm in the center. Then I'm gonna extend it. Now that's too big, so we need to dimension it. We're going to dimension it 1.25. So this plane in the rear is 0.5 circle, and this circle is 1.25. Just double check. 0.5 for the small circle, 1.25 for the large circle. That's what we want. Now in previous parts that we've made, you take a circle and you extrude it out into a cylinder. This time we're going to connect these two circles, and the part is going to connect between them and gradually get larger and larger and larger as it goes from the small circle to the large circle. This is called lofting, when you change size and or change shape as it extrudes. So we're creating a loft. So let's see how this works. Finish the sketch. So now we have these two sketches. Let's go ahead and choose the loft tool, and even the little button shows you a circle going to a square or a rectangle. Here's a loft tool. Look at this shape. If you just hover, it gives you an example where we start with a shape here. You start with a small point and you can curve it around to a larger point. So if we want to add sections, we'll just click on these two shapes. That's all you have to do. And see how it's kind of shaded in faintly. And create. Click OK. And now we've created a part. It's sort of cone shaped. These two planes that we're looking at, however, kind of distort the view. They get in the way a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to make them invisible. We're going to turn off the visibility, just like I did before. If you right click, there's the visibility button. Just uncheck it on both of them. And so now those planes are turned off. They're not visible anymore. And we have our basic cone shape. So if we rotate it around to sort of match what we have in our original diagram, that's kind of what we have on the document in Canvas, if I'm not mistaken. Looks kind of like this. So we're just talking about this middle section here. We're going to add a bottom and add a top to it. Alright, so for the top, we're going to go ahead and add this part. Right click on the top. And I want to project geometry of the circle that's there. And then I want to finish sketch. That's all I want to do. So what I've done is I've copied the circle onto a new sheet of paper. I'm tracing it. And now I'm going to extrude straight up. Sort of. So we'll go to extrude. And we want to see how far it goes. Alright, so if you look at these two distances, so it's 1.5 to here, and then it's 1.75 to here. So that's a 0.25. So our total distance of the extrusion that we're creating now is 0.25. So we just want 0.25 in our distance. but I want to change the angle. So if we look here, we notice there's a 15-degree angle bending inward. That's what we want, a 15-degree angle bending inward. So let's see, where is our angle? Advanced properties, possibly? Sure, there it is. So we want to change the angle to 15 degrees. Now that's flaring outward. I want to flip it to flare inward. So you can drag the arrow, or you can just use your flip button, flip the direction. Or type in negative 15 degrees. Any of those options work. So it's now bending inward. It's starting to look like a smokestack now, if you've ever seen an old-timey train. And click OK. So there's our profile now. We do need to add a little piece to the bottom. We're going to do the same thing we just did. We're going to put a new sketch on the bottom. We're going to project the geometry and then finish sketch. It's real quick and simple. Place a new piece of paper. That's what a sketch is, a new piece of paper on the bottom. Project geometry is just tracing what you had underneath. And now we have a new sheet of paper with a new circle, and now we can extrude. I'm going to double check on the depth. The thickness of this bottom piece is 0.25. And if we recall, the hole we drilled in the top of the train body for the smokestack had a depth of 0.25. And that is the basic shape of the smokestack. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different. In this one, in this image, they just drilled a hole. But we're not going to just drill a hole. We're going to shell. We're going to use the shell feature. So we're going to come in, and we're going to use the shell tool. And shell is here. And we're just going to click on the face. Make sure it says remove face. We're going to click on the top. And that's all we have to do. And click OK. And so what shell does, if you recall from the passenger insert, shell hollows it out so that there's a uniform thickness inside. If I can rotate it around. So it's hollowed out all the way to the bottom. Now there was one other little feature, I believe it was just one. Yeah, so ignore this note here because we use shell instead. Optional chamfer bottom edge, 0.01, 45 degrees. So that bottom edge is going to get a chamfer. Whenever you're sliding pieces inside of each other, it's always good to have the edge that's going to be sliding into a hole to have a slight chamfer on the bottom. So we want to get that rough edge, that sharp edge off the side there. So let's place a chamfer. And it had a distance and an angle measure. So that's the second button here. So our distance was 0.01, 45 degree angle measure. So we're going to click here. Cancel. Let's try it again. Oh, not shell. Chamfer. 0.01, 25. I'm trying to click here, this face, and then that edge. And so what that's done is that's given us this angle. So it makes it slide into the hole a little bit easier if you're thinking about real world application. And that is that. That is a completed smokestack. We're going to take one step further, and I'm going to show you something that I haven't shown you before. We're going to change the color of this. And you can change the color quite simply by just clicking on the wheel at the top, the color wheel in between the word generic and default. Click on the color wheel. Here is your appearance browser. Now, think of a color that you like or that you think the smokestack would look good in. Some people like red, so you type in red, and it'll open up all of the different red options. If you click on search results, and that way it'll search everywhere. Otherwise, if you just click one of these folders, it'll just select in that folder, but if you click search results, it'll search all folders. Those are pretty good red. Anodized is a pretty good red color. Dark red looks pretty good. There's a high gloss red. There's a light red. So you have a lot of options here. There's satin, light red. Someone called that ink. So you have some different color options. If you want to just choose bright red or smooth red, or if you want green, or if you want purple, there are some limits to what you can do. Here's a cool option. Maybe you'll like this. Copper. Let's make it a polished copper. So we drag our selection to this palette. We click on the part name. And click on what we selected. How about that? A solid copper. If we're making a model train that maybe a collector would want to buy instead of a kid's toy, make it out of metal. Make all the parts out of metal and nice and shiny and expensive looking. So that's another option. So I'm going to keep my copper smokestack. And that's it. It's a file. I like to do save as, so we can make sure we give it a good name. Train body, I'm going to call this train smokestack.